match coming up. Now, as you can see, this is a little bit different. This is called a double feature. I'm sorry, double vision tag team match. Which, yeah, we're the only ones who are apparently ever going to do this, and I don't know why no one else ever thought of this. Or maybe they did. We're just the ones who matter, I guess, doing it. So here we're going to have a classic tag team match, which I guess you might call this also the split personality disorder match, I guess, as Papa Shango and the Godfather, who are both the same person, just two different identities. The only one you're missing really is Kama Mufasa, or Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine, whatever you want to call it. All played by the very talented Charles Wright. And on the other side, you have Cactus Jack, and kind of the brain behind the whole the three faces of Foley, which is Mick Foley. I guess I chose Cactus Jack because he's probably one of my favorite variations of the Foleys, with an exception of Mick Foley himself. So, we're giving you guys a dream match, I guess, because the only way you're going to see it is right here on Dream Masters Classics, as that is the show you're watching now, as Papa Shango with a nice nerve hold on Cactus Jack, as Mick Foley urging Cactus to fire back, which he does. He gets out of that and tags in Mick Foley. Mrs. Foley's baby boy tags in to go up against Papa Shango, which was one of the most I think Papa Shango actually might have been the originate. That was probably the first time we actually saw Charles Wright kind of portray someone in WWE, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think there was Papa Shango, who was kind of like the voodoo doctor kind of a thing, which, as you can see, face painted, came in, did the voodoo stuff, had very, very well-known, documented feuds with people like the Ultimate Warrior and guys like that. And then, of course, the Godfather, as you see, he's like the original pimp daddy. He made pimping and smoking pot and all that fun stuff kind of be a cool thing. And that was during the Attitude Era. Was the Godfather angle. He was kind of good in that end. He was a good guy and a bad guy. So he got a heel in the face right now, which those of you guys who know Cactus Jack know that Cactus Jack kind of had a thing of going back and forth. Sometimes Cactus was good, sometimes he was bad. He was still insane, but he was Cactus Jack. And Mick Foley, of course, is, Mick Foley, as the Godfather, who was the original pimp daddy, is now taking things on Mrs. Foley's baby boy. As Foley's having some problems with the Godfather, and he pushes him right off. Shango getting a cheap shot, not something that would be unheard of. I think we're going to probably stick in this arena. This is our new Dream Matches arena. Classics division, I guess. As Papa Shango now with a nice neck breaker on Mick Foley. If you think this is something, folks, you haven't seen nothing yet. We got some very, very exciting matches you probably never thought you'd probably get to see. Today you're going to see it. Including, we're going to find out what happens when, like, yesterday and today clashes. I think there's a lot of guys today who emulate a lot of the guys of the 80s, the 70s, and so forth. And there's also a lot of guys in the 70s and 60s and all those older guys who probably had, some things with some of the 80s guys at that matter. I know that one Bruno Sammartino, who, if you're a wrestling fan of any kind, you know who Bruno Sammartino is, and if you don't, you can't be that much of a wrestling fan. I think even people today, if you've even watched wrestling from back in the day, you know who Bruno is. Now, Bruno is one of the longest-running WWF champions, and champion just about everywhere he goes. The Sicilian Nightmare himself, Bruno Sammartino. He was a legend in their own right. He just passed away not long ago, but on our show, thankfully, people always live on. We don't kind of have the bearings of, whether you're alive or not. We kind of bring them to you because on our show, legends never die. So, in our show, we have legends, we have icons, and that being said, no one really can die in that sense. So that's kind of what we do on Dream Matches and Dream Masters and Dream Matches. And here we have our new kind of concept. This is Dream Masters Classics. As you'll see, for the most part, kind of classic confrontations. I'm not saying necessarily everything is like, wrestling. For the most part, it is all wrestlers, the ones you grew up with, the guys I grew up with, and even some of the guys that are new, and the old school people, new school, old school kind of meet together. As a lot of the guys who are new school probably don't really remember Cactus Jack, as far as Mick Foley goes. They probably remember Mick Foley from being a general manager or from being a goofball who kind of pops up and hit now and then and tells people to have a nice day, which was also something that I think all three of the faces of Foley used to work that into the thing, as now the Godfather warming up the whole train. That could be the end of Cactus Jack right there, as the Godfather stalking Cactus. Cactus says, "I don't think so." And Shango taken down. And Shango also, if you remember correctly, was part of that short-lived faction known as Right to Censor when he was the Good Father. Him, Val Venus, Stevie Richards, and Ivory. I think, which at that time there were 3 or 4 people who kind of didn't want to have anything to do with like the sex, the violence, and all that stuff. Kind of the lamest group. And look at that, Mick Foley wins. I'm sorry, Cactus Jack picks up the win for Team Foley, as the Godfather falls to Cactus. As we see some of this action here, you see Mick Foley there with a bulldog to Godfather, and here's that double arm DDT, which is what Cactus Jack and Dude Love, Mankind, and whatnot all brought to life. Again, they're all the same person, so there you go. Another match a lot of people have always wanted to see. Now, the reason we're doing this kind of a show is because there are a lot of wrestling fans out there who will ask us, can we see some actual wrestling stuff? And so we're going to sample this out and see how this goes for a little while. And if it goes well, then cool. If it doesn't, we'll try. How's that, folks? But we want to pay homage to the guys of yesterday, just as like today. So that's kind of what we're all about. As you can see, Cactus Jack and Mick Foley talking to each other, which in fact they're talking to themselves. Well, there you go, folks. There's your winners. The team of Foley and Cactus, whatever you want to call it. All right. So the deranged one and the writing one have won this one. All right, folks, stick around. We got a hell of a one-on-one coming up. And this one is one that is kind of a grudge match that some people know about, some people don't, from the 90s. Stick around, coming up.